26 students. That's how many people at one law school, California Western, had their scholarship cut or taken away in the newest ABA filing. Out of 199 students who showed up with a scholarship, that is 63% who lost it. So at that school, the most likely thing that happens to your scholarship is that you lose it. And this was not a one off, it was not a bad year, it wasn't a fluke. This was the third year running above 60% of students losing their scholarship straight out of the school's own ABA report. And they're just the worst example of something that 61 law schools still do. And across the country, more than 1 in 4 students who get one of these scholarships, 27.6% in the newest numbers, watch the school take part of it back or all of it because of one line in the offer that most applicants never really read. Now, here's the part that should bother you. The schools doing this aren't guessing who's going to lose the money. They just built the system so somebody has to lose it. The grading curve does the dirty work for them automatically before you ever sit for a single exam. And at 8 law schools in the latest filings, you're more likely to lose your scholarship than to keep it. And I'll tell you what you can do about that before we're done. Now, there is a category of law school money called a conditional scholarship. The American Bar Association defines it in plain language. A conditional scholarship is any award where keeping it depends on you holding a minimum GPA or class rank that's higher than what you need just to stay enrolled. So you could be a student in good standing, no problem, fully on track to graduate and pass the bar, and still lose your money. Those are 2 different bars, and the school set them in 2 different places on purpose. Now, almost every law school grades first-year students, the 1Ls, on a mandatory curve. That means professors don't hand out grades based on whether you learn the material. They hand them out on a fixed scale the school requires. The median, the middle of the class with half of the students above it and half below, gets pinned around a B or a B+, somewhere in the 3.0 to 3.3 range depending on the school. And somebody has to land below that middle line because it's simple math. So if you bolt a scholarship condition onto a forced curve, if the scholarship says you got to keep a 3.2 GPA and the school's curve puts the median at a 3.1, then a big chunk of the class is going to fall short no matter how hard everybody works. Everybody could study 60 hours a week. Everybody could understand every case. The curve still sends half of them below the median, and the condition still claws the money back from whoever lands there. The school set the system up to guarantee that somebody would lose. And this gets worse because some schools stack the deck on top of the curve. They take all of their scholarship students and put them in the same 1L section. So think about what that does. Now your scholarship money depends on beating the curve, and the curve is full of other people who also earn scholarships. So you're not competing against the average admit, you're competing against a section of people who all had the numbers to get recruited too. So half that room is going to end up below the median, and half that room is going to lose money. Now, of course, not every single school does this, and you can't always prove it from the outside, but the schools that do it know exactly what they're building. So that's the mechanism. Conditional money sitting on top of a forced curve, and sometimes a stacked section on top of that. Now, here are the newest numbers straight from the latest American Bar Association filings. 61 law schools still hand out conditional scholarships. This cycle, over 7,400 showed up with one, and 2,000 of them had it reduced or eliminated, 27.6%. More than 1 in 4 students who were promised money watched some or all of it get taken back. And these were not people flunking out. Most of them were in perfectly good standing who just landed on the wrong side of the curve. Now, at 8 law schools in that data, more than half the students who came in with a conditional scholarship lost it or got it reduced. California Western is the worst, but there's also Toro, Barry, Western State, Hofstra, New York Law School. They're all on that list too. So at these schools, the most probable outcome of taking the merit award is losing it. Now, this trick is luckily on the decline, and that's worth saying out loud. Back in the 2013 to 2014 school year, about 62% of law schools gave out conditional scholarships. By 24 to 2025, that number dropped to roughly 29%, so it's gone from a majority to under a third. And it fell for a few reasons. One of them is the ABA started forcing disclosure in 2013, so the applicant data went public, and people caught on. But the real question is why the school would dangle that money in the first place. Why would they run such a scam like this? You gotta look at the rankings. US News ranks law schools, and one of the biggest inputs is the median LSAT score of the incoming class. A higher median moves a school up the list, and a higher rank means more applicants and more tuition revenue. So schools are desperate to buy high LSAT scores. And the way you buy a high score is you offer scholarship money to applicants who are going to lift your median. But they've got a problem. They can't actually afford to pay all that money for 3 full years to everybody, and so a conditional scholarship is the hedge. They use your high LSAT score to juice their rankings on day one, lock in the bump in their prestige. Then the curve quietly claws a chunk of that money back starting in year 2. So you served your purpose in year 1, but they stop paying you in year 2 and year 3 if you fail to meet the conditions, which are, of course, impossible for everybody to meet. So the real villain here is the ranking system that pays schools to buy high scores, plus this financing trick that lets them take part of the money back once the ranking is banked. So here's what you do about it. You start using your LSAT score as a tool. Now, of course, schools are not going to put this in their brochure, but merit money is driven more by your LSAT score than by almost anything else, including your GPA. Admissions offices weigh the LSAT heavily because it's the number that moves their ranking. And so when your score lands above the school's 75th percentile, which just means you scored higher than 3 out of 4 students they admit, you flip from someone they're considering to someone they will actively work to recruit, and schools recruit with money. And so the same score they would use to justify a small conditional offer is the score that, if you can get it 3 or 4 points higher, it'll get you a bigger offer with no strings attached, plus the leverage to negotiate. Because yes, these awards are negotiable and most students never even try. If you've got a competing offer from a competing peer school, you email the financial aid office and ask them to match it, and schools match all the time. They'd rather pay you than lose your LSAT score to a competitor. But you've only got that offer, you've only got that power if your score put you in the range where they're fighting for you in the first place. Now, the average law student paid more than $50,000 in tuition and fees last year. The typical law school grad walks out with somewhere between $112,000 in law school debt, and plenty owe a lot more than that. And so having your scholarship get cut after year 1 is a financial punch to the gut. 2 years of full freight, which could be $50,000, $80,000, $100,000 you weren't planning to borrow, plus interest, is the real number behind that form letter. But you can avoid being in that situation based on having an LSAT score above the median. If your LSAT score is sufficiently above the median, you're going to have that scholarship negotiation leverage. You're not going to have to take on that conditional scholarship. You're not going to have to take on that debt. You can negotiate an unconditional scholarship. You can even negotiate a full ride based on the strength of your numbers. So if you can get an LSAT score above the medians, significantly above the medians, ideally above the 75th percentile of the law schools that you're targeting, you put yourself in the running to get significant scholarship money, maybe even a full ride. Now, if you want my help getting your numbers up, the LSAT in particular, I'm happy to help you out. I'm offering a free LSAT tutoring lesson for everybody watching this now or later. The link to book that free tutoring lesson with me is unpluggedprep.com.